All right, Patriots fans, buckle up because we've got a ton to unpack today. The New England Patriots are once again right in the middle of trade rumors, injury updates, and all kinds of speculation about what direction this team is really headed as we move deeper into the season. There's a mix of optimism and caution around Foxborough, and honestly, that feels about right for where this team stands right now. It's been a season full of flashes of potential, frustrating mistakes, and moments that make you think, yeah, this team might actually be on to something if they can just find a little more consistency. But with the trade deadline approaching, that question becomes even more pressing. Will the Patriots actually make a bold move, or are they going to ride it out with the group they've got and trust Mike Vrabel's new era to keep building? Let's start with what everyone's talking about, the trade market. Across the league, things are heating up fast. We've already seen some unexpected player movement, like Joe Flacco jumping from the Browns to the Bengals, which kind of set the tone that no one's really safe this time of year. The Titans, who just fired their head coach, could easily become one of the biggest sellers. There's talk that edge rusher Arden Key, cornerback Roger McCreary, and tight end Chigoziem Okonkwo might all be up for grabs as that organization tries to reset. Now, they'll almost certainly hold on to Jeffrey Simmons. He's a dominant force on the defensive line and not the kind of player you just give away, but the Patriots have to keep an eye on that situation. When teams start moving players like that, opportunities pop up, and sometimes the best pickups are the quiet ones nobody's talking about. Meanwhile, over in San Francisco, there's chatter about Trey Hendrickson being on their radar, which makes sense considering how badly they want to beef up their pass rush. And speaking of pass rush, the Patriots could use some extra help on the edge too. The challenge, of course, is that division trades rarely happen. You can't really expect the Jets or Dolphins to do New England any favors, even if there's a fit that makes sense on paper. Guys like Rashawn Gary, Jalen Phillips, or even Bradley Chubb are the kind of names that would make a huge difference for the Patriots, but prying one of them loose would take a miracle or a ridiculous trade offer. And let's not forget the running back situation. With Antonio Gibson dealing with injuries and the backfield feeling a little thin, it's not crazy to think the Patriots could look for another body there. Breece Hall would be a dream addition, but again, there's that division wall. The Jets would probably ask for the moon in return, and as much as fans would love to see that kind of move, it doesn't seem likely. Jerome Ford out of Cleveland is a name that's been floating around and actually fits what the Patriots like to do. He's tough, versatile, and could plug into their system without much adjustment. That's the kind of under-the-radar deal that has Patriots move written all over it. There's even talk that the Giants could look to move their third running back, and that could also be worth exploring depending on the price. Now, before we get too deep into hypotheticals, let's talk about what we actually know. The Patriots recently added safety Richie Grant to their practice squad, a low-risk, potentially high-reward pickup. Grant's a former second-round pick out of UCF, who started over 30 games for the Atlanta Falcons and put up nearly 300 tackles along with a few interceptions. 2 years ago, he was considered one of the rising talents in the NFC South. Things didn't pan out quite as expected, and he ended up being released after a tough stretch. But he's exactly the kind of player New England loves to take a chance on. They got injuries piling up in the secondary, and adding another experienced defensive back who can contribute both on special teams and in coverage just makes sense. And yes, before you ask, this move doesn't close the door on C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who just got waived by the Ravens and is looking for a new home. The Patriots could still explore that option, especially if the injuries keep stacking up. Right now, Kyle Duggar has been carrying a huge load back there, and while he's been solid, you can't keep running him out there without a little more depth behind him. That defensive backfield has been stretched thin for weeks, and with the kind of offenses coming up on the schedule, they'll need all the help they can get. Speaking of the schedule, let's be real, it's not exactly the toughest stretch in the world from here on out. The Patriots still have games against the Bills, Buccaneers, Falcons, Giants, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins, Titans, Browns, and Bengals. Now, when you look at that lineup, it's kind of a mixed bag. The Bills are always dangerous, but this one's at home. The Buccaneers might actually be the toughest game left, especially with how they've been playing recently, but it's a road matchup that could go either way. The Falcons just took down Buffalo, which makes you take them seriously, but they're still a team trying to find its identity. The Giants are unpredictable, They can beat anyone or lose to anyone on any given week. And the Ravens, who were supposed to be one of the biggest challenges on the schedule, suddenly look a bit more vulnerable. They've got question marks all over the place, and while no one's writing off Lamar Jackson, that team doesn't look as unstoppable as it did at the start of the season. So what does all of that mean for New England? Well, the path to the playoffs is right there in front of them. They've got a manageable schedule, a defense that's starting to find its rhythm again, and a young quarterback in Drake, who's getting more comfortable each week. But here's the thing. If you cruise into the postseason without facing too many tough tests, are you really ready for what comes next? That's the question hanging over this team right now. It's great to rack up wins, but when the lights get brighter and you're up against the Chiefs or the Broncos, teams that have been battle-tested all season, that's when experience really matters. The Patriots have been in this kind of position before. Good record, good vibes, but not much proof yet that they can hang with the top-tier teams when it matters most. That's why Vrabel's mindset is going to be so important. He said more than once that he won't let the record dictate how aggressive the team is at the deadline, and that's exactly the kind of mentality you want. If the right deal is there, they'll pull the trigger. If not, they'll keep building the way they are. It's about balance. You can't sell the future just to grab a big name, but you also don't want to miss the chance to give this roster a spark if it's sitting right there. And while we're on the topic of roster health, the injury report has been pretty rough lately. Jalen Hawkins is still sidelined with that hamstring issue and isn't expected to be ready for the Titans game. Anthony Jennings is nursing an ankle problem, and that's been messing with the defensive rotation on the edge. Harold Landry's situation is also up in the air. He's been fighting through an ankle injury and didn't participate in practice earlier this week. There's some optimism that he could return soon, but it'll come down to how he responds in the next couple of days. Knowing Vrabel, he won't push a guy too hard just to get him back on the field a week early. There are a few bright spots, though. Christian Gonzalez had full participation in practice after dealing with that hamstring, which is huge news for the secondary. Keon White is also back, which gives them another solid body on the defensive line. Christian Barmore continues to take his usual Wednesday off, but that's more maintenance than concern. And Stephon Diggs popping up with a chest injury on the report caught some attention, though he was limited rather than out completely. Morgan Moses and Charles Woods were also listed with minor issues, but nothing that looks too serious at the moment. All in all, this is a Patriots team in transition, but not in a bad way. There's a sense that they're trying to blend the old-school discipline of the Belichick era with the energy and adaptability that Vrabel brings. It's still early, but the identity is forming. This is a group that wants to play tough, physical football, rely on its defense to set the tone, and give its young offense time to grow. They're not pretending to be a finished product, and honestly, that's refreshing. What matters now is whether they take the next step, whether that's through a smart trade, a key player returning from injury, or just executing better week to week. And that's where the next few games are going to tell us everything. The Patriots have the pieces to make a real playoff push, but the margin for error is razor thin. One bad stretch, one sloppy loss, and the tone of the entire season changes. But if they can stay healthy, stay focused, and maybe get one or two reinforcements before the deadline, this could be the start of something that feels like classic New England again. A team that nobody wants to face when the weather turns cold and the games start to really matter. Now let's dive even deeper into what's really shaping the Patriots story right now. Because while the talk around trades and injuries gets all the headlines, the real narrative is about identity. For the first time in years, there's a genuine sense of new energy in Foxborough. You can feel it on the field, in the locker room, and even in the way the players talk after games. Mike Vrabel's presence has changed the tone completely. It's not about rebuilding or reinventing the wheel. It's about restoring pride, toughness, and that old-school edge that defined New England for 2 decades. And even though the season's record doesn't scream dominance just yet, there's something brewing underneath the surface that feels sustainable. What stands out most is how Vrabel has handled adversity. Early on, when the injuries started piling up and the offense looked disjointed, he didn't panic. Instead, he doubled down on fundamentals, better tackling, smarter situational football, more accountability. Players have talked about how practices feel different, more competitive, more physical. The message is clear. you earn your snaps. There are no automatic starters, no free passes. Every drive, every rep, every mistake matters. That shift alone has brought a different level of intensity to this roster, and it's showing in how hard they're playing every week. But let's be real. Energy alone doesn't win games. What's going to make or break this team is whether they can turn that discipline into execution when it counts. Offensively, the focus continues to be on Drake, May, and how quickly he's adapting to life in the NFL. For a rookie, he's shown poise and command beyond his years. Sure, he's made mistakes, but he's also shown flashes of brilliance, the kind of throws that make you understand why the Patriots were willing to hand him the keys so early. The chemistry with his receivers is slowly coming together, and the offensive line has done a better job giving him time in recent weeks. What's still missing is consistency. There are drives where everything clicks and others where it completely falls apart. That's part of the growing process, but at some point, they'll need that rhythm to last for 4 quarters instead of just 1 or 2. The running game has been another focal point, especially with the uncertainty in the backfield. Ramondre Stevenson remains the anchor, but he's been dealing with a heavy workload. That's why the idea of adding another running back before the deadline makes so much sense. You can't keep hammering your starter for 25 carries a game without wearing him down. Jerome Ford, or even a lesser-known rotational back, could provide that balance and keep defenses guessing. The offensive scheme thrives on versatility, and when they can rotate backs effectively, the play-action game opens up dramatically. That's when May looks his best, when he can fake the handoff, roll out, and hit a tight end or slot receiver in stride. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has already sent shockwaves through the league, whispers are spreading that the New England Patriots have pulled off what could be one of the most talked about acquisitions of the offseason. Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets. While nothing has been officially confirmed, sources close to the team suggest that the Patriots are quietly closing the deal, a maneuver that could dramatically reshape the dynamics of their defensive line. The buzz around Quinnen Williams, one of the most disruptive defensive tackles in the NFL, landing in Foxborough has already ignited debates among fans and analysts alike. Williams, known for his explosive first step and uncanny ability to penetrate offensive lines, would instantly become the cornerstone of a Patriots front that has long sought to reclaim its feared identity. Imaginations are running wild. Some insiders speculate that pairing Williams with the likes of Matthew Judon and Lawrence Guy could produce one of the most formidable defensive lines the team has fielded in years. Sources suggest the Patriots front office sees Williams not just as a short-term star, but as a long-term investment, signaling a commitment to protecting the trenches in a way rarely seen in recent Patriots history. While the Jets reportedly explored every possible avenue to retain their young star, the allure of New England's culture of winning, coupled with a rumored multi-year contract package, may have been too enticing for Williams to ignore. The rumor mill hints that this move isn't just about talent. It's about sending a message. The Patriots are back in the business of dominating up front. Of course, none of this is set in stone, and the league's rumor mill is notoriously fast-moving. Yet, if these whispers prove true, Patriots fans may soon witness a seismic shift in their team's defensive identity. Analysts are already speculating about how opposing quarterbacks might adjust, and social media is buzzing with mock draft trades and defensive alignments. Even rival teams are said to be taking notice, preparing for the potential nightmare of facing a Patriots line anchored by Williams. For now, the story is all speculation and intrigue, a tantalizing what-if hanging over the league. But one thing is certain. If the Patriots really do land Quinnen Williams, the ripple effects will be felt across every sideline, fantasy league, and sports talk show for months to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.